shell shock. Additional help on this. So shell shock, we're talking about the human crisis of war here. So in World War I, 56% of troops were killed or wounded. Not surprisingly, the horrific trench warfare had profound psychological effects on the young men in the battlefield. Many soldiers had to cope with images that wouldn't go away. At times, parts of human bodies were used to shore up the trench system itself. Some soldiers found it humorous to hang their water canteens on a protruding arm or leg. These were not people who were disrespectful of the dead. These were people who were living with the dead. One can imagine the possibility of becoming numb to such images, but some who couldn't turn off their feelings, they brought them home with them, dreamt about them, and went mad because of them. By the winter of 1914-15, shell shock was a pressing medical and military problem. Not only did it affect increasing numbers of frontline troops serving in World War I, but also doctors were struggling to understand and treat the disorder. Soldiers themselves coined the term shell shock. Symptoms included fatigue, tremors, confusion, nightmares, and impaired sight and hearing. It was often diagnosed when a soldier was unable to function and no obvious cause could be identified. Because many of the symptoms were physical, it bore little overt resemblance to the modern diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Although today, modern psychologists recognize shell shock as a form of PTSD. In 1916, British soldier Arthur Hubbard painfully set pen to paper in an attempt to explain to his mother why he was no longer on the front lines. He had been taken from battlefields and placed in a hospital suffering from shell shock. In his words, his breakdown was related to witnessing a terrible sight that I shall never forget as long as I live. He wrote the following letter to his mother. Punctuation and wording appear as originally written. We had strict orders not to take prisoners. No matter if wounded, my first job was when I finished cutting some of their wire away to empty my magazine on 3 Germans that came out of one of their deep dugouts, bleeding badly, and put them out of misery. They cried for mercy, but I had my orders. They had no feeling whatever for us poor chaps. It makes my head jump to think about it. Hubbard had gone over the top, meaning he climbed out of his trench and charged forward through no man's land to attack the enemy Germany trenched. While he survived, practically his whole battalion was wiped out by German artillery. He was buried, dug himself out, and during the subsequent retreat was almost killed by machine gun fire. Within this landscape of horror, he collapsed. Arthur Hubbard was one of millions of men who suffered a psychological trauma as a result of war experiences. Symptoms ranged from uncontrollable diarrhea to unrelenting anxiety. Soldiers who had bayoneted men in the face developed hysterical tics of their own facial muscles. Stomach cramps seized men who knifed their foes in the abdomen. Snipers lost their sight. Terrifying nightmares of being unable to withdraw bayonets from the enemy's body persisted long after the slaughter. The dreams might occur right in the middle of an ordinary conversation, when the face of a German that I had bayoneted, with its horrible gurgle and grimace, comes sharply into view. An infantry captain complained. An inability to eat or sleep after the slaughter was common. Symptoms, however, did not always occur during the war. One soldier did not suffer until he returned home, when he admitted that he cracked up and found himself unable to eat, deliriously reliving his experiences of combat. These were not exceptional cases. It was clear to everyone that large number of combatants could not cope with the strain of warfare. Medical officers quickly realized that everyone had a breaking point. Weak or strong, courageous or cowardly, war frightened everyone. The shell shock was a condition of a psychological condition that many soldiers had as a result of the horrors of war. The symptoms of shell shock, you can look in this paragraph at top of page 1, bottom of page 1, top of page 2. We have everything from uncontrollable diarrhea to unrelenting anxiety. We have stomach cramps, losing their sight, and the nightmares are a big part too. So what are some of the causes of shell shock? It's the experiences they had fighting in the war. They remember seeing fellow soldiers die. They remember their own lives being at risk. They remember, killing other soldiers. And then question 4, what do you think some of the long-term effects after the war of shell shock? the war ends and these guys don't like recover. Like they still have some major issues and psychological problems that they have to deal with and counter. So it probably involves some counseling, possible abuse, possible depression. Suicide was a potential thing that many soldiers faced after World War I.